DHS says all ICE arrest teams will have at least one agent with a body camera. This change follows two deadly shootings by officers who were not wearing cameras. Demonstrators gathered in parts of Maine yesterday to protest against Monday's killing of a 25-year-old Colombian national in Biddeford. DHS says he was shot while attempting to get away from ICE agents who tried to stop his car. Yesterday, crowds were also seen in Houston after an ICE agent fatally shot a Mexican man there last week. In both Texas and Maine, the men killed were not the intended targets of an ICE investigation. And in Florida, authorities say a tractor-trailer struck and killed a man in the St. Augustine area yesterday. He was reportedly hit after running from immigration and other federal agents. Meanwhile, ICE agents have been instructed to immediately halt most vehicle stops. This directive applies to officers responsible for civil immigration arrests and removals. White House Border Czar Tom Homan says this is a temporary suspension.
I'm confident they're going to get back to their policy of vehicle stops, but they're doing, what they believe is a necessary short-term pause just to look at it and make sure everything's good.
But take a look at this. Posted just moments ago, President Trump said this on Truth Social, saying, quote, "We cannot give up one of ICE's most important and effective crime-fighting tools, the traffic stop." The president went on to say, "It won't happen on my watch." And in an interview with CBS News, the top prosecutor in the Houston area says if wrongdoing is found in last week's fatal shooting in the region, his office is, quote, "more than prepared to prosecute ICE agents." CBS News immigration correspondent Camilo Montoya-Galvez spoke with that prosecutor. He joins us now from Houston with more. Good morning, Camilo. What charges could that top prosecutor in Houston potentially bring forward if he sees that policies have not been followed?
Good morning, Errol. Just to level set before getting into the interview with District Attorney Sean Tier here in Houston, the killing of Mexican immigrant Lorenzo Salgado Araujo here in Texas last week by an ICE agent after a traffic stop has caused a lot of outrage here, anger, and also importantly calls for accountability and a transparent investigation. As you know, the Department of Homeland Security says it is investigating that fatal shooting last week, in addition to the shooting this week in Maine, and that the Justice Department, the FBI specifically, is also probing the incident, but potentially as an assault on a federal officer. And because of that, we have seen the relatives of Salgado Araujo, but also community leaders here in Houston and other local residents demand an independent investigation. And Harris District Attorney Sean Tier tells us that that is what he is doing exactly. That is what his office is doing, issuing dozens of subpoenas, reviewing videos of the incident, and also enlisting the help of witnesses to see if they can actually determine what unfolded last week, because the account from DHS and the account from the family and relatives are starkly different. Here's what he told us in terms of what he's potentially looking at in terms of charging decisions.
We're looking at everything right now, from murder to a criminally negligent homicide to tampering with evidence. Every potential crime that could be looked at, we're looking at it to make a determination.
Very serious crimes.
Absolutely.
Importantly, Errol, Tier also told us that his office is in the process of trying to get legal protections, or U visas as they are known, for the witnesses, the men who were in that van with Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, so they can testify in court before being deported. They say, the office says, that their testimony is critical.
And Camilo, why we see this new president, this message from President Trump this morning, why is the White House still pushing forward in its immigration enforcement crackdown, despite the backlash that it's facing across the country?
Well, Errol, it is no secret that President Trump made immigration a top campaign issue back in 2024, and he promised to conduct the largest deportation operation in American history. And we are seeing that on full display. We are told by ICE sources that the White House is pressuring the agency to conduct 2,000 daily arrests. That is a number that we have not seen in many years, if ever, and that is creating a lot of tension in the ranks of ICE, but also forcing the agency to make high-profile, visible arrests on the streets of American towns and cities in broad daylight. And that strategy, Errol, creates the sort of situations that can often be deadly that we have seen here in Houston, but also in Maine.
All right, Camilo Montoya-Galvez joining us from Houston. Camilo, thank you. And later this hour, I'll speak with Congressman Jesus Chuy Garcia. He's a member of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. We'll discuss the controversy surrounding ICE, so stay tuned for that. And in a development out of Minnesota, top prosecutors in the state say federal investigators are now sharing evidence connected to this year's deadly ICE shootings there. And this includes the SUV Renee Good was driving when she was killed back in January. Statements and body-worn cameras are also now accessible to prosecutors. Yesterday, Major Garrett spoke to one of those prosecutors about obtaining this evidence after months of pushing for it. Here's what she said on the takeout.
I think this was momentous for us and our community yesterday because I think people had been losing hope that there would be any accountability at all. I don't know what our charging decision will be, but I now know that we have the evidence to make that decision.
Moriarty also addressed the recent ICE shootings in Texas and Maine, saying she and others, quote, stand ready to help.